Are back. It is about 50 minutes into the 1 hour cooking process, and we are about ready now to start preparing the asparagus. So while the chicken is continuing to cook, I'll show you here. We've got about 11 minutes there on the timer. So we're going to go ahead and do the asparagus now. And this is one of my favorite side dishes. I love asparagus. And Dad's over here nodding his head. He's with me. So I'm going to turn the camera over to my capable sous chef and cameraman extraordinaire. So what I've done with the asparagus is what you want to do, these come with about, I don't know, it depends on the size, but they come with stems that have a lot of fiber in them. So you want to cut them off about to where just the green is uniform on there. This is a really nice batch of asparagus here. They're nice and big, which I love. Then what you want to do is you want to wash them off real good. Use cold water. I wash them in a colander. And remember, guys, it's not a calendar, it's a colander. We've had this talk before. I expect you to remember, young man. All right. This was my colander that I used. It's lovingly placed in the sink because I'm done. And by the way, helpful hint. If you clean dishes up and stuff while you're cooking, and when you're done with stuff, it makes it a lot easier once everything's done. So what I did was I washed them off in the colander, and then what I like to do is I like to put them between two paper towels just to get all the excess water off of them, because we're going to be putting these in a skillet with olive oil and butter, and water will make it spatter. And if you've ever had hot oil pop on your hand, it's not a pleasant experience. So we're going to need some olive oil here too. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn it to about medium high. And what I want to do is I want to get the butter melted first, and I use a generous amount of spread. Now today we're using country crock because you know, the guys in the house like it, and we roll. Say hi to Kasha, everybody. Hi, Kasha. Kasha, we have found, loves my dad. And she has basically been ignoring me all afternoon for him. And, Pop, I got to tell you, I'm a little disappointed. I'm a little sad. I'm a little heartbroken. Feeling a little betrayed. I mean, look, she's sitting at your feet. She's sitting right at your feet.
Yes.
What do you have to say for yourself? You're stealing my dog.
I know, and I feel so guilty. Not so guilty I won't eat your food.
There you go. All right. Well, I need a drink. This is, by the way, just so you know, I'm not a raging alcoholic. This is the same beer that I had at the start of the show. So all of you out there in judgmental land.
Hi, Alyssa.
All right. So this is done. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add a little more, I'm going to add a little olive oil. Harry, why do we add olive oil to butter?
To raise the smoking point.
That's right. Now, what exactly does that mean? Because we do not smoke asparagus.
Well, butter itself will burn very quickly. And if it burns, there are some recipes you do want to have it browned and it'll burn, but normally when you're sauteing, you do not. So you add the olive oil, which has a higher temperature where it'll smoke,
right,
and it blends in, and therefore it's not going to burn.
And the flavor.
And the flavor.
I love olive oil. I use it. You guys have seen now, I use olive oil for everything. So you guys are going to be actually here to watch the settling of a little discussion that we've been having here. My father seems to think that this pan is not big enough for all this asparagus. I say, hooey. And so I actually do have a cameraman that once again is criticizing and questioning my cooking techniques. You can't find good help anymore. And he steals my dog. What's up with that? All right. So I'm going to take the asparagus. And now, to his point though, the concern, and it's a valid one, is that you want to make sure that the asparagus is cooking evenly and that every stalk is getting the appropriate love. Well, we know that there's no more loving of a chef than Chef Jeff. So I'm going to make sure that each of these little beauties gets the proper amount of attention. Okay, so we're going to take this, we're going to throw it away because we're responsible. And I don't know if it's eco-friendly, and I really don't care. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get a little bowl. And it's my favorite little tiny bowl. I love it. It stays. I am going to get that and a brush. And we're going to put a little bit of olive oil in this little bitty bowl. I might write a song about the little bitty bowl. I can make it metal, that'd be awesome. Alright, so you don't want it too hot because we don't want to kill it, and we don't want to cook it too fast. What you want to do is you want to get it all sauteed and cooked nice and evenly. What I'm going to do though, I'm going to brush these with olive oil real quick. And you don't have to be real crazy because eventually they'll get in the olive oil. Because they take turns. Because I only buy sharing asparagus. It's actually, you can call it asparagus. Alright. Now what we're going to do, we're going to add a little sea salt. And boom! Minced garlic, the mother load right here.
You sure you have enough there?
You know, I questioned that earlier. I think we'll be all right this time. You missed the one episode where I ran out. I was very upset, hurt, and disappointed. And yes, that's a lot, but we like minced garlic in the Heron House, don't we?
We really like garlic.
Yes. But garlic actually has a lot of health benefits.
It's a power food, actually.
And no, that does not mean you will be Popeye, but that would be kind of sweet. Then I'd have to get another tattoo of an anchor. I don't know how that would roll with me. So you want to keep an eye on this. And as you'll notice, I'm just taking the tongs and just really gently just kind of rearranging them a little bit. And the idea here, of course, is shifting this stuff around so that everything gets cooked. Okay.
And you notice Jeff put the garlic in last, which is really good because garlic can burn easily. So you put it in towards the end of the cooking cycle.
All right, now we've got 3 minutes left on the timer for our chicken and our potatoes. I'm actually going to turn that off right now. I'm going to check the temperature of the chicken because this isn't going to take long. Oh, smell that. You gotta love it. I mean, you got to. You just don't talk to me anymore because you don't. And I'm hurt. Okay. So what we're going to do now, we're going to take our meat thermometer. Now, you can get, there's all sorts of different kinds of meat thermometers that you can get. This is kind of the tried and true. You know, this is kind of old school, but that's how we roll here in Heron World. We go old school because that's the best. This is nice and accurate. We've never had this thing fail. You can actually buy some that are sensors that you put inside the meat, and you run a sensor, and the lead out, it has a reader outside. Those are really cool. I actually might get one if I can, you know, if they're not too terribly expensive. My good friend Malcolm Rogers, I actually saw one of those for the first time when I was down in Malcolm's, and he was blowing me away with some of his culinary skills. So if you ever find yourself in southern Pennsylvania, make sure you drop by the Rogers house because dude will rock you sideways with food, just as he did me. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. Now, what I will typically do is find the thickest piece of meat on whatever it is that you're preparing, whether it's pork, whether it's chicken, whether it's beef, or whatever. Because the thickest one, if it's done, then you know everything else is done. So I'm going to go with this guy right here. And you just want to put it right in the center. And we're just going to let that, the needle is going. It's at 130. 140. And we're at 150. It's creeping up. Now again, just to remind everybody, I put these in the oven at 375, and they were in actually for about 57 minutes. So it is just south of. It is actually creeping up to 160. I don't know if you can see that. That's right at 160. So I think we're good.
We're good.
I think we're good. So we're going to go ahead and just keep this out. The potatoes should be done as well. I can't imagine that they're not done by now. Pop, what's a good way to tell if a baked potato in the oven is done?
Squeeze it.
Squeeze it?
Yeah. Put a minute on first, I suggest.
Okay.
It's been in the oven, you know.
Right. And what are we looking for?
Soft.
Soft.
It should give. It should be soft.
Okay. So look at that. Look at how that's cooking. See, now one of the things I want to point out here is the concern was that's a lot of asparagus to put in at one time. But you'll notice now that it's cooked down a little bit, you'll notice that every single stalk now is getting that heat. So Jeff 1, critical cameraman 0.
Not until the taste test.
Oh man! All right. So here's our potatoes. They feel good.
Is it soft?
It's pretty soft. I'm going to leave them in though.
That's what I
I'm just going to leave them in just for a few more minutes. I am so jacked up to eat this dinner. Now, you'll notice one of the things I had pointed out to my dad that I just realized was I didn't season. Notice I didn't season the chicken, and you guys have seen me season stuff before with garlic, salt, Lowry's, pepper, cumin, whatever I'm feeling that day. You'll notice that I didn't do that with the chicken before I baked it or coated it. The reason for that is, frankly, it doesn't need it. The panko actually is very, very flavorful. They're great breadcrumbs. They're a little expensive. I mean, they're more expensive than just your standard breadcrumb fare, but the flavor is just killer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jack up the heat on this asparagus just a little bit. I don't want to kill it, but I want it to get nice and cooked. And notice how all that garlic's just kind of sitting in there. Now we have enough liquid in here between the olive oil and the butter to keep it from really charring and searing. And I like that because I don't. The only thing that I like to sear intentionally are steaks and sausages or hot dogs. But again, the great thing, and again, this is for guys, is this stuff isn't rocket science. It really isn't. All it is just putting stuff together. Don't be afraid to experiment. This chicken dish that you see here was me experimenting. I had never done that before, and I just thought, what would happen if? And it worked. It worked really well. And so the point is, don't be afraid to try stuff. And if it doesn't work, so what? You figure out what went wrong, then you try something different. I will tell you that peanut butter and pork chops don't mix, so don't try that combination. But don't, again, have fun. There's nothing wrong with showing your wife that you've got some value besides changing the oil in your car and mowing the lawn, guys. And I will tell you, there is nothing cooler than taking an afternoon while your wife's out doing stuff and surprising her with a meal that you cooked yourself. And I'm not talking Mother's Day. I mean, that doesn't count. I'm not talking like Mother's Day or Sweetest Day or Valentine's Day. But just surprise her. You'll be amazed. But I don't recommend asking her to do the dishes. That's probably not cool. If you got kids, knock yourselves out. All right, so how's this looking, Pop? Pretty good?
Yeah, it's good in there.
Yeah, I think probably another couple minutes and we should be ready to go. I did jack up the heat on this. And these are going to be what you want with these. You want them nice and soft. And when they're just like really droopy to the point of where they're going to break, you're ready. So this one, we need a few more minutes of this. So I want these to be nice and tender. But asparagus is just a great, and it's an easy, asparagus is an easy vegetable to make. I'll show you. It comes already bundled up. Because I got two, because I'll probably make it again during the week. Not necessarily the chicken dish, but, and it's great because you don't even have to hold them. I actually trimmed these off with the rubber bands on. That just made it easy. You know, so you don't have to sit there and have them fly away or whatever. And then you just take the rubber bands off and wash them. And, you know, when you're washing vegetables, you just want to be careful. You know, depending on where you get them. You know, I typically get produce at either Mark's or Giant Eagle for those of you folks in the Ohio area. I've never had a problem with it, but you still want to make sure that you wash them really good because, you know, they can still have some pesticides, things like that on them. But also, people go through and, you know, they pick them up and they look at them. And I've seen some of the people that do that, and I really don't want to eat anything that these people have touched. Just saying. So you want to make sure you wash it really good. But again, it's a really simple thing. Fits perfectly in the skillet. One thing I would also mention too, you'll notice I'm using metal tongs. I really would not recommend using metal tongs on a Teflon or Calphalon skillet because you could scratch the coating. You don't want to do that. That's bad. But I'm a trained professional, and I know what I'm doing. Now, one of the things I'm liking about this too is if you take a look at the garlic, you'll notice that it's getting nice and toasted. And that just gives it a nice smoky flavor. I love that flavor of toasted garlic. Now, I have done this with fresh garlic before. I don't know, Dad, when you do stuff, do you use fresh garlic or do you use the minced?
I use fresh garlic.
Do you? And how does that, has that been pretty good?
Yeah,
good. Now, the trick about using fresh garlic is mincing. Now, do you have a mincer?
No.
Or you just cut it really fine?
Yeah, I cut it real fine.
Okay. I'm still not very good with sharp objects. So I tend to use the minced stuff because I can't really hurt myself that way.
Well, I didn't even know they had this stuff until you pointed it out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We used it all the time.
It was real convenient to me.
Yep. All right. I think we are about ready to roll. The plates, boss, the plates. You have to be over 40 to understand that reference. And have watched TV on Saturday nights. Okay, midget in a white suit. I'll just leave it at that. So the plating is actually pretty much the easy part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you what, I'm going to start out with this one for you, Pop. And just look at that. I mean, look how crispy that is. I mean, that's just... I amaze myself sometimes, you guys. So I'm going to plate that like there. I'm going to go in, I'm going to grab the potatoes. They're done. I'm sure they're done by now. Oh yeah, they're nice and mushy. One thing about the potatoes that have been in the oven, typically foil cools almost immediately when you pull it out of the oven. But you've got a really hot object in here, so that foil is not going to be cool. So you want to just be careful. I don't recommend just grabbing the potato like that. You know, just kind of flip it around and, you know, just do that. I think we're ready to roll with the asparagus. And of course, don't forget the prerequisite, enjoy it with your favorite beverage. Okay. All right. Look at that. I know, I can hear it. Okay, I'm gonna grab mine. And it is time. Oh. And then, of course, as far as the baked potatoes go, do whatever you want. Cheese, sour cream, butter, whatever. Dad, do you want some toasted garlic on your asparagus?
No, that's all right.
Yours is okay the way it is?
This is the way it is.
Okay. All right. So, guys, I hate to be rude. Actually, I don't. But we're going to sit down and enjoy this meal. So, again, thank you for watching. If you watched both episodes, you're super fans, and a t-shirt is on the way. If you don't receive it, don't call me, because I have no control over FedEx. I'm just saying, so just enjoy it if you get it. If you don't, I can't help it. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, peace!